much. You guys are overselling me here, so I appreciate it. It's been so wonderful watching actually the reaction to that demo because I've gotten to see it over the last few months, spending time with Head Starter, and it's incredible. I'm so excited for the access it's going to create for so many people in terms of upskilling. So I'm excited you guys like it as well. So listen, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I thought I'd give you a quick background on myself, but more so to impart some tips for you as you start your journey for whatever is next. So I'm Irish, probably tell by the accent, and I moved to New York 5 years ago. So my journey is not your typical career journey. I didn't go to university. I didn't have that opportunity from the background that I came from. But I've always kind of been determined to reach my capability and go after what I wanted. I fell into careers, so started off in recruiting, had a recruitment business when I was 22, moved out of that when I was 25. And I eventually got back into recruiting and started to use a product called LinkedIn. And LinkedIn changed the game for recruiting. And as you know, it's now changing the game for the professional world in terms of brand, content, and ways that you can accelerate your career, creating economic opportunity for many people. I was the one that sent the email to LinkedIn. So when you're embarking on a career journey, the opportunities are not always going to flow to you. You make your own destiny with the right attitude and mindset and the curiosity to know what's next for you. So I sent the first email to LinkedIn. They weren't ready at the time. And when they came after me 7 months later, I was working at Google, but I wanted to work for LinkedIn. I wanted to be at the start of something, and I wanted to work for a product that was going to completely change the game in terms of the industry I worked for. So after 10 long interviews, I started as the first recruiter outside the US. We were building the European base. We hadn't yet set an international headquarters in Asia. And I kind of, long story short, I was 12 years at LinkedIn. I pivoted my career several times. So started in talent acquisition, wanted to move into the business and planned my way into doing that. Moved into sales development, which was 120 people, selling to over 70 countries. And I managed actually over 50 nationalities, which was pretty cool, but they were all early in career. And then I moved into large global clients, which was supporting our biggest companies, our biggest clients with the largest spend that had needs within their large organization. I worked with the most earliest in career talent to the most senior. And what I have loved doing is building high performing teams. But the most important thing for any company is who they hire. Because without the right people, an organization, number one, cannot be successful. But number two, you want to be able to hire people that have a determination and an ability to reach their capability. And that's the biggest joy of what my role has been. I left LinkedIn last July, and I took 13 months to travel the world. And I'm now back in New York spending time with founders, angel investing, but I'm also looking for what's next. So after 14 years of not looking for a role, I'm now looking for a role, and it's not the easiest thing to do. So I thought I'd impart some kind of tips and tricks with you based on my recruiting experience. And the first is that this is a numbers game. Like, recruiting is a numbers game. It's volume, it's sales. Right? So don't get disheartened. You have to fill your pipeline with opportunity. Recruiters just work off job descriptions. They don't pipeline. They rarely pipeline. So you have to know that they're working off a very specific spec. So don't get disheartened if you don't hear anything back. And then use referrals or your network as much as possible. This is what I'm doing. This is what I realized I've not done enough of over the years that I've been on LinkedIn. I didn't network enough. And now I need that network. The second thing is that you have to select the right company. So when I always went to offer with a candidate, I would say that this has to be the right thing for you first. Otherwise, it's not going to bring you joy. So the way to do that is make sure you're LinkedIn, make sure you're following the right companies, make sure you're following engineer leaders that you want to work for, that you admire, and ultimately make sure you know who the recruiter is. But also make sure that you follow a lot of the venture capital firms. They have job boards, and I've been finding opportunities I didn't even know about through those job boards. But you want to be clear on why you want to work for them, why they need you, and what is your value narrative. And when I talk about the value narrative, which has actually been hard to craft, it's knowing what your strengths are, but what your opportunities are and what you're capable of in the future. When people interview, they always look backwards, but they never look forward enough. And ultimately, you want to find something that's going to progress you forward. I would then suggest that you work on your must-haves. I have 5. I'll give you my top 3. One is I need to work for an inspiring leader that's going to be a teacher and a coach to me. They're going to invest in me so that I have progression and promotional paths. I want challenging work. When I get a little bit bored, you lose my focus, you lose my motivation. And the third thing is I want to work for a mission-driven company. I want to have impact. I want to do the right thing for people. And then you have to know what you're negotiable on, right? Because for me, I don't necessarily want to work for a fully remote company. I see the value of hybrid and an office, but I could be negotiable on it if the other 3 must-haves are right. The interview process is tough. It's going to take a lot of your energy. It can go on for multiple stages, and you will more than likely be asked for a case study. What I'd say is, take the job description and start writing out examples of where you have shined or what you have done that demonstrates that skill. An interview will be based on the competencies that the job is looking for, but it also will be based on soft skills, which I'm going to come back to because that's my number one when I'm hiring and building teams. And what you're going to tend to find is a company will aim at the culture and the values of the organization and the environment. So you need to be asking questions around what's the day-to-day like? What are the hard parts of the day-to-day? What's the communication like? Is an organization of transparency? Is an organization of development? Will I have a team-driven culture, which is so important? It's what I love. So you have to have all these questions and then be ready for the hard skills and then the soft skills. So number 1 for me is soft skills. So I hire around 3 things first. It's self-awareness, adaptability, and curiosity. And I'm going to drill and spend a lot of time with you to see where I can see those strengths, but also those areas of opportunity as well. And I already heard the former guest talk about teamwork and communication, and that is so important. When I saw this product, the first thing I said to Yassine was, how are you teaching people about the soft skills? It's all well and good you building hard skills, but how do you teach people how to work in the day-to-day around just team interaction, human dynamics, communication, self-awareness, right? Self-motivation. That's what it's about. Attitude, will, curiosity, learning. That's really important. It's more important for me than the actual hard skills. I can teach the hard skills very quickly. A team can teach you the hard skills, but the right behavior is so important. And then I wanted to share 2 questions with you. This is where I'll wrap up, which always stumps people when I ask these questions, but I want to see you be vulnerable. And this is where self-awareness comes in. So I'll always ask you what role you're going to play on the team. It's funny how many people can't answer that or haven't thought about that, but I hire diverse teams. I always hire 50-50 gender balanced teams. And I want to know that you're going to bring something unique and different because that's your superpower. And the second thing is, it doesn't matter for me if you don't have a leadership title. We're all leaders in everything we do. So I'll ask you for a time when you didn't show up well as a leader. And not a lot of people can answer that because people come to an interview wanting to sell how great they are. And they're afraid to talk about moments where they haven't been so great. And I actually think that's more powerful when you can talk a little bit about that. So I'm always excited for people to get on their career journey, but finding something is hard. But when you find that right thing, I think it's the start of something incredible. So that's all I wanted to do is share today. And I've enjoyed getting to see the Head Starter product.